All right, good afternoon. Let's call the court to order. Everyone please rise. At this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Jeff Watts to give the invocation.
Judge, I've got a guest here today. Greg, if I can invite you up front to one of these microphones here. And Greg is with Faith Enterprises. He's also a chaplain here for us at the Sheriff's Department and just does some tremendous things. You know, he lives the way we're supposed to, and that's helping others. And Greg, we appreciate you being here and the role you play in our community.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, we pray for unity, peace, prosperity that we recognize must come from your guiding hand. Grace the leadership of our county with compassion as they face challenges and difficult decisions. Dear Lord, we commend to your gracious care in keeping all the men and women of our armed forces at home and abroad. Defend them day by day with your heavenly grace. Strengthen them in their trials and temptations. Give them courage to face the perils which beset them, and wherever they may be, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
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 Thank you very much, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, so we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag. You going to do that for me? Tell us your name, will you?
Sam Sutton.
All right, Sam, thank you. If you'd lead us.
Pledge
allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, now, did we get anybody who's going to do the Texas? All right. Yes. All right,
Very
Coop.
good.
It's over here.
Honor the
Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Take your seats, please. Just so I want to be aware of it, I want to be sure and introduce today we have with us Dr. Bradley Wilson from Midwestern. He's the assistant professor in the Department of Mass Communications, and with him is his advanced reporting class. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the class, Dr. Wilson, please?
Absolutely. This is the first time we've offered this, actually, since I've been at Midwestern in the last 4 years. And like I like to tell my students, this is not the beginning reporting class, it's the advanced reporting class. So we thought it was really important for them to come see what local government was like. At some universities, they teach an entire class just on public affairs reporting. We get you for 1 day, so thanks for your time.
Well, very good. We appreciate you all doing it. What we're going to do is we'll run through the regular stuff. We'll have a session that kind of meanders at the end talking about the jail work orders, but also take some time while we're doing this to interact with you all to see what kind of questions or things you might have or things we might give you ideas about your job and dealing with people in our kind of offices. So we'll save that for the end. I would like to ask the court to take action on the consent agenda with the following, and I think, Ms. Flores, you have asked that we move item 4 and consider it next week. You want to find out some more information on it, is that correct?
Yes, please.
All right.
Judge, after looking at consent agenda with noting the removal of item number 4, I'd make a motion we pass the agenda as presented.
And would you amend that for number 9?
Oh, for number
We'd like
9.
to pull number 9 down too, Judge.
Okay.
You want to pull that down for discussion?
Yes.
I would amend my motion to reflect that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Mahler, a second by Commissioner Watts to approve the consent agenda with the removal of item number 4 and pulling down item number 9. Any other comments or questions on these items by anyone? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right, as custom, we will move immediately to item number 9, which is motion to authorize the county judge to sign a tower lease agreement with Bobscan Incorporated for tower space, pay $500 reservation fee, then a rental fee of $1,110 per month thereafter. Review a necessary modification by legal counsel to be funded from general fund contingency to appropriate lines established by the county auditor. Commissioner Watts.
Yes, Judge, I just wanted to understand a little bit more about the one urgency to move to this tower, and a little more detail as to or to enhance on this tower, I should say, and then I just didn't have a good understanding of the entire program there. I know we're looking at our radio situation, but I didn't know it was before us to need to increase to this level quickly.
Okay.
Well, and I didn't know whether this was the Electra Tower or not. Is it not?
It is, it's the one out towards Electra that what this does, that tower is up for sale right now. It's owned by two local individuals. They have it up for sale. The effort is to pay the $500 deposit, get locked in at this rate, because if it goes to, I've talked to a couple of people in the business, they said if it goes to one of the national tower companies, you can certainly look for a significant increase in that rate. This tower was the one specified by the plan being offered by Motorola. And the only reason to move on this is $500 certainly seems like a reasonable investment to make in that to secure this more favorable lease rate. If we decide not to do it, then we lose our $500. If we do it, Mr. Crutchfield looked and talked about some other, what you're paying for is the additional equipment and going up higher on a tower than we're currently using.
We're on here now? We're on this tower as we speak?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, we got a repeater. I'm pretty sure that's the one. But this came up last Thursday is why.
Now, does 500, is it separate and apart from the 1,100 monthly payment? We've got time, if we put a deposit down, and we can take our time to decide whether
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That's what
so
this would do.
we don't have to start immediately making $1,100 a month?
No.
Well, they're $1,050, but
Yeah.
we're already on there, I think, at 300. Does that sound right?
Something like that is 380, but we're
So
much
we're going
lower.
to add equipment to the tower?
Well,
Putting 2 microwave dishes and then a larger antenna mass on it, what I understand.
right.
With the new system.
But here's part of it. So I want to be sure and tell you this, because in discussing this, and I brought this up to the sheriff, and I talked to the Motorola people. The sheriff's goal in getting this radio system was so that when they're talking on their handheld radios, we had that incident out there near that tower on 287 with a man running up and down the highway. They could not hit that for some reason with their mobiles under the current VHF narrowband system, which changed the whole radio world when they went to the narrowband. And so this would allow us to secure that spot. When we looked at the pricing, we were thinking, okay, well, we'll come off of this lower level. That may not be the case, because what I have gone back and asked Motorola, if the goal was for the sheriff's deputies when they were out of their vehicles, which is much of their time when they are dealing with someone, they're on that handheld radio. If we only buy the handheld radio to give them 95% reliability in the map you all have seen on that presentation, then we would hold off on purchasing the 100-plus vehicle radios.
At 5,000 plus,
Yeah, $5,000 to $1,000 plus. They would keep the current vehicle radios they have. They're a higher wattage. We did approve that deal, remember, to try the thing out with a higher powered repeater in a higher location and with a different frequency that seems to be less noisy. But you've got to be careful when you go up higher, then you pick up more signal and noise. You stay down lower, you don't get the range, but the nice thing about Wichita County, it's not very big. So that's what they're doing some testing with right now to determine that. All we're trying to do is secure that space higher at a rate we know what it is, instead of speculating that we're going to pay more. So $500 is what's at risk right now.
Okay.
How long do we have to decide to go? Because we're really looking at, 17 or 18 to initiate that new system, Judge?
Well,
Well, that's my next question is, this tower in Electra is supposed to be taken over by DPS. Would we pay that rent, or would DPS pay that rent?
well, DPS, no, we'd pay the rent for our equipment on it. But that's
But
not
when
the
we go
one.
to the Schedule 25, isn't that,
Well, this is P25 Phase 2. The new equipment has to be at the Phase 2 level. And, you know, I don't have a date for you until this is almost as imminent as the jail, yeah? Okay.
somewhere out there.
When will we start paying that rent? When we actually put the equipment up?
Put the equipment on there. All you're doing is paying the ante to secure the rent at the rate they can quote you now, at that height and place on that antenna or tower.
Okay, I got it.
So to me, it's worth the $500 risk
It is.
to do this if we look into that system, but there is no time limit on it. Meredith I've given her the lease, but she hadn't had a chance to review it. I'm going to say with the number of things we've got on her right now, it's going to be at least a couple of weeks. And hopefully, then I might have some better information by then.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion that we put up $500 earnest money for the reservation of this tower located in Electra, Texas.
Second.
I'm going to sneeze again.
Would you mind if I said in your motion that it was as the item is stated?
No, well, let me reread it.
Okay. It just says what you said in a few more words.
Yeah, it says, for tower space, pay a $500 reservation fee, then a rental fee of $1,010.50 per month. So I don't want to, I'm not okaying that until our equipment is put up on the tower.
Well, okay, but the lease will say that. I mean, it already says that. It doesn't happen until we actually put the equipment on there.
After review
And then,
and necessary
Okay,
modification.
the last sentence covers us right here.
yeah,
So yes, I would
Okay.
make that motion as stated.
okay. Motion by Commissioner Harvey, second by Commissioner Watts to approve the item as stated. Any other comments or questions on this item? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, item number 1 is review and approve the emergency and regular bills for payment.
Judge, after reviewing the bills, I'd make a motion that we pay the emergency and regular bills
Second.
as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Muller, second by Commissioner Gonzalez, to pay emergency and regular bills. Just for y'all's edification, we get a stack of bills every Monday,
Yeah.
that high to that high.
There you go.
Yeah.
And they range with payroll is about $500,000 every 2 weeks. Then there'll be anywhere from another $200,000 to $1 million in bills being paid. And what we do, everybody sorts through all those, looks at them, and we've really had a pretty good year of finding some problems for some things and getting a credit and getting some money back and terminating some services that should have been terminated, but for some reason, maybe someone like the telephone company, even though we sold that building and moved out of that office, we found they had kept billing us for that line, so we've gone back and got credits. So, as they say, the devil is in the detail always, so, you know, it's a thing to watch for and find out, and that's what this body is supposed to do. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Judge,
Yes,
I
sir.
have a couple of discussion points I'd like to just clarify in my mind.
All right.
Transportation, and that was the first time I've came across this, prisoner transportation, and we use an LLC for that to perform that function. That's something I guess we've always done.
Yes, sir. And it's done and what happens, we'll have a warrant out for someone. They get arrested somewhere in the United States. Then it's our responsibility to physically get them back to our jail here. And if they're in the state of Texas, often we'll send two deputies to get them and bring them back. If they're out of the state, or some places they could be out of the state and still be closer than in Texas. But the sheriff looks at and determines with his personnel which is better for them to go get them or to use the transport service to bring them. And so we've done that for years.
Okay.
Do that.
It was just new to me, and I wanted to make sure I understood it. I noticed our autopsy invoices were extremely high. Mm-hmm. We had over $12,000 worth of autopsies this last period. And I wanted to clarify, are we paying the funeral home services for transportation, for autopsy transport?
Yes.
Okay, so that's included in that number well, that needs to be included when I see that number. Autopsy has an additional cost.
It's billed separate.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's billed separate.
Which time?
Actually, the autopsy clinic, whatever you want to call it, we get a bill from them, but then we also get a bill from the transportation service to and from.
Okay. But I noticed, and I assume, there was a wreck this weekend in Wichita Falls, and I noticed that it appeared that we sent the two killed in the wreck for autopsies. Mm-hmm. Is that commonplace?
That's common, because what you have to determine, especially because there's a crash, there could be criminal charges, so there's an autopsy required to be done to determine anything in the blood, what kind of injuries, how they died, did they die as a result of that. If the driver is criminally negligent, then that information is needed to back up the charges if they're made there.
How do we go after uninsured motorist or that person's insurance company to pay us for that autopsy in the event that's the case?
We don't.
But shouldn't we? Couldn't we?
I had never thought about us doing it that way. We've done some other liability claims that we'd never done before, and when they came across my desk, then we started pursuing those. Some you gain, some you don't. But that'd be a good question to ask the district attorney whether there's a way to go back on that.
Judge, transportation is our bidding funeral home, isn't it? Isn't that?
No, transportation is usually Wichita Market.
Okay.
And then finally, Judge, I noticed that we had washer or dryer repair, and I just wondered if we moved closer on any laundering jail issues, and that they may be out of pocket to talk to that today, but it just caught my attention that I noticed that we were repairing some, and I wanted to see if we had any updates on washer and dryers for our units in order to bring it in-house.
I have talked to Captain Johnson,
Yeah.
about that, and she kind of backed off on that because the laundry service, they were having some issues with that. That they have been sold or bought by somebody else. Anyway, the professionalism of the company we've hired to do that has been greatly better. So she's not near as unhappy as she was before.
The other thing in having those discussions, if I'm an inmate, y'all love this, I get 2 sheets a week. Well, if I get mad about things, or I like making sheet art, I can tear that up, and all they did was, when they came around getting laundry, it'd say, I don't have a sheet. Well, nobody got charged. Now they get charged $7 a sheet. We quit losing so many sheets. So it's now kind of a thing that makes a difference, where there's someone watching it. This is under Captain Johnson's leadership. That has changed that. Also meeting with the company and bringing in their regional vice president, all saying, hey, if you all want to keep this business, then we've got to have a better system. Once again, back to accountability, inventorying the sheets, checking them to see, okay, when they come in, are they clean? What was happening, they would unbundle sheets. There'd be something still on the sheet because it didn't get properly laundered, and instead of saying we get a credit back on that, you take the battery out, it'll quit that.
You just turn,
Yeah, there you go. But at any
Leave it on
rate,
my desk is what I usually do.
but now that there's been that interaction and going back through them, so we set aside sheets that are not serviceable, those get credited. So this has been probably a positive change, and I would say on the priority of things with the jails right now, that probably hasn't hit the top of the architect's list unless somebody pushes it up there. But we may have solved most of our problem without having to try to bring that in-house.
Well, and the other good thing is when we're not missing those sheets, we generally don't find them in our drain,
That's right.
which creates all kinds of problems. So that's a win-win.
Well, I just saw the repair on existing equipment, and that's what made me wonder, so.
Yeah, and we have a thing in the sewer line. Inmates, I don't know why we put bad people in jail that'll do these kind of things, but they'll tear their mattress up, stuff it in the commode, childish things, same thing with sheets. In the sewer line process, we have a thing called a muffin monster, and it's just there's two grinders, they're installed in parallel in the sewer system. So when something like that comes, instead of it clogging everything up, it then is ground up because it has to be pumped out at Sprague. It goes uphill a ways. So it has to be something that can be pumped by the pump that's beyond that to do that.
We wind up with tennis shoes and all kinds of interesting things in there. You don't know why we don't just tell them not to do that, Judge,
I don't know either.
and we'd be done with it, but anyway.
But the question is now, are
Do
we
that.
charging them for the tennis shoes? But we can get to that. Those probably are $80 a pair, those kind of shoes they have. So, all right, Commissioner, anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Okay. Anyone else?
No?
Okay, and the motion then by Commissioner Marler, second by Commissioner Gonzalez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, receive the quarterly report, and I'm not sure, David.
That's my mistake, I'm sorry. She meant it to be March 21st.
Okay, so,
Postpone that.
all right, item number 3 is assess and review jail work orders. Who's going to lead that discussion?
Where's my list?
I guess I will, Judge.
Okay,
Everybody should have found on their desk a little spreadsheet like this.
I did, I don't know what
Yeah.
I did with it.
This is just from, Darrell Bonin sent this in. They do have, one maintenance person hired, and he's in training. In the last week, they had taken care of 10 plumbing issues, 6 miscellaneous issues, and 7 electrical issues. That leaves a total of 23 incomplete work orders for, I would believe that would be 23 work orders disposed of. There are 67 open work orders left. That's downtown and at the annex. Some of those work orders that remain are still from 2015, 21 of them. And if you look at the list, lights burned out, acoustic foam on the wall is torn, Vent-A-Hood fan is not working above the dishwasher. Now, I believe that we called that out as a item that needed to be immediately taken care of because it creates humidity in the jail. And that is downtown here, so we can talk to Captain Johnson about that later this afternoon. But most everything is grout.
Well, Commissioner, are we not able to get maybe the McCabe group to go in and complete those?
We probably
Plumbing.
could, since this is a new year. Last year, we reached our $50,000 limit with B&L maintenance. Meredith's not here right now, but we probably, Judge, you've been here 25 years, can we do that again in 2016?
Well, I think you get your plumber.
Well, that's what I'm asking, and I'm not opposed to what you're saying on a different group, but
Yeah.
I was talking about our regular courthouse plumber to go ahead and address some of these valve and couple of leaking
Nope.
pipes and chases and.
I don't know why we could not.
Well, but we just hired a new maintenance guy for out there. so
Yeah, but he's in
he'll be
training.
able to- Yeah, but
He'll be at the courthouse with the other guys for probably 2 or 3 weeks before he gets turned loose.
But a lot of these are plumbing issues, there's a bunch of them. And interestingly enough, the stuff in the solitary deal is pretty much electrical, it's lights.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we've made good progress, guys. Let's call it what it is.
From
A lot
400
of the major problems that we faced earlier are off this list, and we've made good progress on
Sure,
getting this
you
thing
bet.
Yeah,
back
we're down to 67 open work orders
Yeah.
from
400.
well over 300,
Yeah.
yes.
Most are minuscule and.
Yeah, fairly minor, and not the major,
Right.
problems that we're
Right.
having. So
The only
we're
major
making
thing
good
that we have
progress.
left is the shower pans.
That's exactly right.
And we sat and worked those numbers, and you're looking at, if we don't come up with a creative way or a reduced population, a $50,000 job is gonna wind up costing us $475,000 in inmate housing outside the county. So we just need to set everybody free and fix the showers and go rest them again. I don't know.
So I met with the public defender's office. I've met with the other judges on looking at things we can do to address the jail population. I'll work my way through with the other people having to do with that to see what we can do without compromising safety, but look at, it's like a lady I was following up on today. I'm not sure how big her assault was, but a $75,000 bond set for assault family violence might be a little high. But I don't know, sir, I haven't found the probable cause statement on that yet to see what brought that about, although she had other convictions and that caused a parole violation. But that's where we build up a fair number of people, is being held on a parole violation that doesn't move along the way it should. And we've got to look at and narrow that down. I cannot complain about the criminal courts moved over 400 cases last month. And that's just pretty doggone good. Unfortunately, the Commission of Crimes looks like after last year by being reported by many of the agencies being down, it looks like we've got an effort to increase that for this year already. So, interesting thing, y'all might not, we can't budget for our jail and say we're only going to take 400 people a day. We haven't been able to get the criminal community to cooperate with that idea. We can't determine for sure how many people are going to ask for court-appointed attorneys, and by law, we have to furnish them an attorney. And so you'll find that in a county budget, there's a very large contingency fund. We budget based on the historical need, but last year, to balance out on court-appointed attorneys, we transferred $59,000, I'm thinking, $59,000 to cover that at the end of the year. And that was probably already after spending better than $500,000 on the public defender's office, which is a county office, plus another $400,000 put in for private attorneys being appointed. And so just $1 million goes away there. Actually, it wound up being almost $1.3 million when it was all put together. And the only reason I can recall that figure is we got $128,000 back from the state to help us with $1.3 million worth of indigent costs. Not a good return, but better than none. So, okay. The other thing in trying to look at it, and I'm kind of now talking to you all about how you might think as reporters, okay, what kind of news is in there? And if you want to know what news is in there, you can read Claire's column tomorrow. and if you all do as well as Claire, you'll be a good reporter. Absolutely. You know, she doesn't always report it like I want it, but she reports it truthful. But I'd like a little icing on some of that cake. But she does us a fair job and a fair job to the public. And that, if people on our side can say that about your job, then I think you're doing a great job. but we all miss it sometimes. I don't explain it well, or the court commissioners don't. And if we don't give you good answers, we can't expect you to have a good article to talk with us.
But in all fairness, Judge, if Claire's not clear on something, she's up here asking questions. You know,
Right.
she's getting the whole story, not just what she thought she heard. She's up there getting it to where the whole story's being told.
So, all right, we finished with work
Well,
orders?
can we,
Yes, sir.
can we go ahead and look at maybe McCabe taking a chunk of those? There's one on here, for example, the valve replacement, multiple attempts before hot water will come on, and some of those could really be expedited and maybe cause us a little, sweat and copper tubing and stuff is not just for everybody, so we're
No.
kind of limited. And could we not look at McCabe knocking some of those out for us?
Well, I think we certainly need to do, if it's got some of our facility offline, because we need the room. And
Yeah, there's no tanks or cells right now that are not in use.
Okay.
If you'll look at the second to the last column over here, Commissioner Mahler, all of these work orders do not have any cells out of order.
Which is
great.
Major improvement. Major improvement. And we certainly need it with 500, what's the number today?
518 this
18,
morning.
I was thinking 14, but it's 18. 500, we have 518 overnight guests right now, which we get that's the first email we get every morning, is how many people are in jail.
Okay.
Commissioner, I think we should, and maybe we could group some of these while we've got them on premises, because coming to do the work,
Sure.
we could get
Absolutely.
several of these major things grouped and turn them loose on a project list at a time. I think that would be beneficial, and we could knock a bunch of these out. And then, I don't know, there are a few electrical issues here, but not a lot. I think it's more plumbing than anything, Commissioner, don't you?
Usually is, yeah.
I mean, that's,
And the rest
Where
of
the challenges
the
are.
major things that we have to address is rust and grout.
yeah.
And some of that grout's going to
B&L
be
would
taken
be,
care of in the shower project.
well, yeah, but there's
Oh, it will.
a tremendous amount of other grout work. And B&L would be perfect for the rust abatement and the grout work. So we may need to revisit that, Judge.
And you might want to do that, also sit down with that sheriff's inmate work crew on that rust is inside the facilities. And
Yep.
they may be able to prepare a lot of that.
Well, getting our arms around the humidity issue is going to be huge in keeping the rust at bay. So we're taking big steps in the right direction.
But since the two of you look over jail maintenance, maybe you sit down with Captain
Yeah.
and with Bobby Yo and say, okay, let's prioritize these and where do we need to go outside, as Commissioner Watts suggested. But
I think Darrell Bonham would probably be the
Yeah.
work order guy to sit down with.
okay,
Okay?
I was just suggesting the captain because he's in.
Oh,
her
she's
chain
in
of command.
charge?
Yeah, that would seem like a likely place to do that.
Should just delegate it.
All right, anything else? Okay, let's see what questions, y'all have watched this. We have a fairly easygoing court. This kind of court's run this way. We actually do have contempt authority. You can be jailed for one night and fined $25 if you're held in contempt by this court. Now, if you're in my regular court, it's 6 months and $500, a little difference. And it's a lot easier decision for me alone in criminal court or in other court proceedings where I'm the sole judge. Here, it would take a motion to hold someone in contempt, a second, and then we would weigh that and do that, and that would be the action there. Never happened in my 27 years on this court. Come close a couple times, but hadn't happened. Questions y'all have? Sir?
So be careful what you say, is that what you're telling me?
Well, yeah. So,
Not what you say, but how you say it.
yeah. Yeah, you can pretty well say what you want to, but, but it's how you say it. And we try to make sure everybody's treated with respect. You might have had some interest. We had this packed this morning with a public response to the consideration of a low-cost residential housing development outside the city limits of Iowa Park. Not that we regulate that, but they needed an endorsement from the county commissioners court to be considered for their application in Austin. And given the public input today and last Monday, we voted to not give that resolution to that group. What it did do in that process, they have another proposal that the city, and in smaller cities, often the city council is called a city commission, and the members of it are not councilors but commissioners, and people get, when you start talking that, they start looking at us and looking at them trying to figure out what do you mean, but that's what their actual title is. So the people now became very aware. As the guy proposing the one outside the city limits said, well, the other one's only 538 yards away from me. So many of the arguments that people had about his development apply to this other development. It's going to be interesting to see where that city commission winds up in the next few months of process, if that site's selected by the state board that does that. So, all right. Questions, comments, y'all? One of the things I didn't ask, introduce each of yourselves and tell us where you're from. And
I'm Sam Sutton. I'm from Keller, Texas, Fort Worth area.
Great.
My name's Dylan Pembroke. I'm from Valley View, Texas.
Where?
Valley View.
Valley View East, not Valley View West. Yeah. Cook County, Cook County. Yeah, Cook County.
Yeah.
So you live in a real place?
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's people there.
Well, there's some people still here, but it's not incorporated anymore. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. We've only interrupted you 4 times.
I'm Kara McIntyre from South Lake, Texas.
All right.
There are people there, that's for sure.
Robert Williams from Electra, Texas.
All right, Robert. Home county.
Jacqueline York. I'm from Owl Park.
All right, another home county person.
Harley Warwick from Wellington, Texas.
Guy Roberts.
From Fort Worth, Texas. Cooper Miller from Merritt, Texas.
Merritt.
I'm Sydney Menzick. I'm from Owl Park, Texas.
All right, good.
Hunter Porter from West Texas.
And I'm Connor Wolf from Spearman, Texas.
Great.
Wow, that's great.
Two of those
Cross
towns are
section.
great places to go. Spearman for pheasant hunting and West for eating jet food.
Watchies.
Yes, absolutely wonderful.
All right, y'all have questions?
Sam always has questions.
Okay. I'm saying, take one of the items, y'all have copies at the end of there. If you were going to report on that, what kind of things would you ask us to explain so you could do a good job? And gosh, Claire, I'll put you on. What might you ask? Give them a little idea. You're the experienced person here.
We need to get.
They want to.
So much.
They're asking if they'll approach the mic or pass the mic.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys said it was 400 people per month, and like.
Well, I said that we could budget. Our jail will hold 625. We run usually better than 500. So, and oddly enough, we can't put, even though we've got bed space for 625, you can't put that many together. You've got to do what's called classification. And Melvin, don't hesitate to jump in and help me here, but you can't put felons and misdemeanor people together. You can't put rival gang people together. It's a lot of entertainment, but it's not good in the long run. So you have to watch for all of these different things as you put people together.
Sam, I just want to clarify one thing. That is not per month. That is per day.
Per day, and that grocery bill, Sam, per day, $33,000.
Per day, not per month.
Per day. That includes a roof over their head as well as what they're putting in their bellies, but comprehensively, $66 a day on average.
And Sam, one of the big maintenance challenges that we have, and that's been a big discussion item because we do have to stay in compliance with the State Jail Commission. They have certain standards. And one of the huge considerations is when you've got a facility that runs 7 days a week, 24 hours a day with 514 people that don't want to be in there, you have maintenance issues. And Lee brought this up the other day. Doing maintenance on that jail is like changing oil on your car while driving down I-44 at 70 miles an hour. You can't shut it down.
It really is.
It really is. You can't go
stop
in there on the weekend when everybody goes home and fix everything because they don't go home. And it's a huge challenge for maintenance because it goes 24/7 nonstop. And once again, go buy you a, what's that jail, 17 years old, something like that, 18. Go buy you an 18-year-old vehicle and load it full of people that don't want to be in there and go drive it down the road with your foot to the floor at full capacity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. See if you'll have maintenance issues. You will. And that's one of the challenges we face. And that's why it's so difficult to stay on top of that. It is a big challenge. Our maintenance staff does a good job. Our jail staff does a good job, but it's just overwhelming sometimes to stay on top of it.
And we just signed a contract for health that is going to cost us $2.1 million, Judge, for 1 year.
Healthcare.
That's to take care of the inmates with whatever physical ailments they come up with.
If somebody gets arrested and they're not physically sound, in other words, they're injured or have a disease or whatever, Melvin, they go straight to the emergency room before they're booked in. We don't book in people that have medical issues, so it's a medical end of it is a very, very big price to pay.
But we pay that bill at the emergency room as well, so.
Well, if they're not booked in, the agency that arrests them does that.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay, once they're in, they're ours, and we have plenty of
But
bills.
they fall under indigent health, and it ends up being caught in the trap, does it not?
Well, we fund indigent health care. So, and we had a law passed 2 years ago that anyone in jail is presumed to be indigent.
Jail commission, every prisoner is brought into jail. We have a nurse that must evaluate them.
Got to evaluate.
If for some reason they don't meet something on that form, they have to go to the emergency room where the doctor will sign in, yes, they can go to release them to come to jail or deny them. So it's very, very expensive nowadays.
And for some reason, the people that come to our jail a lot of times have not had the best health care and maybe not the best habits. And so you can run into some real issues there. And it's extremely expensive for the taxpayers, but it's one of the things that we're required to do.
Not too long ago, we had a person in our county jail that had AIDS, and their prescription medicines cost the taxpayers of this county right at $12,000 a month. So it's just you learn a lot when you get up here and figure
Now,
it out.
any of y'all on student loans that will be paying them back when you finish your program, bear in mind, we don't get paid back for any of this money. So that is just the cost of doing business and having a society that we live in. And fair or unfair, it's the way it is. So.
And don't get me wrong, we want to run a humane jail and one that's safe not only for the prisoners, but certainly for our employees, our jailers and our jail staff and sheriff's department staff and other law enforcement. So we have to, try to step up to the plate. And that's one of the reasons right now we're looking at either doing major modifications or even looking at maybe a new facility to try to keep it. We want it safe, we want it humane, we want it clean, and that's what we're looking at. A lot of challenges.
Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. The first is, Judge Gossam, you mentioned that about $1.3 million was used for indigent funds for public defending, which is about, a third of the budget for the last fiscal year?
Oh, no, it's far less than a third of the budget. That's just in that particular area. Our budget runs better than $50 million a year, total budget does.
Okay. And what would happen in the event that that amount is exceeded? Is there a certain fund that y'all would go into?
Well, we set aside that contingency fund, which will have several $1 million in it, whether that's take care of additional court-appointed attorneys, additional medical expense, more repairs to the jail than we had budgeted for. So that number is kept large in that budget, so that if we have to transfer funds. Otherwise, we'd have to declare an emergency, go borrow money, go do something else, and those funds have been built up and kept that way to take care of those needs, because it's cheaper to use our money than going and borrowing them.
And the second question was, y'all made a good point that you made some headway for the work orders for jail, but how do you prioritize the work orders? Because you mentioned grout, which I think could be maybe a safety issue in the long run.
I'll take that.
All right.
Our work orders are prioritized, okay? A lot of them are, if they're prioritized by, this is an emergency, this is a priority 1, 2, or 3. And all of the emergency work orders they go straight to the top. But the jail, our people in the jail, particularly Darrell Bonnet, he categorizes how important each work order is as to whether we can put people in that area. I mean, if you have an electrical outlet that's sitting there sparking, well, that's an emergency. Let's get out here and get it done. But if you got some grout missing on one corner by the door, well, that's not near as important as that electrical outlet that's sparking. So our jail staff prioritizes how they want these addressed, and that's how we do that. All the emergency work orders that come out like a broken pipe and water's going everywhere, I mean, we immediately address that.
Thank you.
And it depends on whether it's going to take that part of the facility offline. We have to really stay on top of things that cause us space, because running that close to capacity, we don't have a lot of space to give up. So if there's something comes up on that list that's got a section closed, we've got to get on it, get it open so that we'll have the room that we need to segregate the inmates.
We had a lady come up here one day in Commissioner's Court and say, look, that jail is costing us lots of money. Why don't we just close that thing?
Yeah. And she was serious.
She was serious. The one thing that the sheriff's office is mandated to do by the state government is to operate a jail. We have to have a jail. We are mandated to have a jail. We're not mandated to have sheriff's deputies patrolling the county, which we want. We elected to do that stuff. But that county jail is the one thing that the state of Texas says we will do. We can't close our county jail. We'd go broke. Housing those folks here is the most economical way that we can adhere to the mandate from the state.
And try to avoid it if you can. By all means.
You guys were talking about bringing some other people in to help with the issues at the jail to fix them?
Contractors.
Yeah, and you said that, y'all seemed a little opposed on a little bit of it. Why wouldn't you bring people in if you said it's really hectic to work in there and try to fix things? Why wouldn't you bring more people in to make it more efficient?
Let me take that.
Go ahead.
Okay, in order to work in the jail, you have to pass a background check, okay? You would not believe how many contractors that are in Wichita County who hire people who have had a DWI or gotten a fist fight at Toby's one night, or, just simple everyday stuff that most people live with on a daily basis. It disqualifies you from being in the jail. It's a tremendous effort to get a contractor to have the right people who can walk through the door. A contractor, every tool in their tool bag, every screwdriver, razor, knife, just imagine what's in the toolbox. It's got to be documented, counted in, counted out. Okay, it's a secure deal. I mean, if you leave a razor knife laying in there and you return prisoners to that area, now you've got a prisoner in there that's got a razor knife. So he's either cutting up his buddies or cutting up the guard. So to bring outside people in, it's a lot of work. I mean, it's a bigger effort, but you can do it, and we have done it. Another reason that we are really careful about how much money we spend with a contractor, we are held by law to certain bid requirements, okay? we can, without going out to a bid, which, guys, in government, if we wanted to spend $75,000 remodeling 8-8, which is just part of the jail, we could go out for bids because it's over $50,000. We could get a contractor that was selected, the winning bid, and then he didn't have the appropriate staff that was eligible to go into the jail and work. So you have to do it again. So you got to look for low-hanging fruit. You got to have a contractor who's got folks that's qualified to enter your facility, and you try to limit the money you spend with them on a daily basis, because you cannot spend more than $50,000 with any one contractor without going out for bids. And going out for bids in the jail facility is really cumbersome. So it's not like, hey, we need that painted, call Bubba, get his guys over here and get it painted. It's not that simple.
So it makes more sense financially to invest in your own employees at the prison or jail in order to take on those work orders?
Yes, and that's what we've done. We have added 2 maintenance positions specifically for the jail. And we've had that position posted for quite some time. We just got our first guy about 10 days ago, and he's in training right now. Those guys have to do the same thing a contractor does. They got to count their tools in, count their tools out. I mean, it's a safety deal.
You have to escort people in to work if you've got inmates present. It's a very inefficient way for a contractor or even our own maintenance people to work, but there's security involved. I mean, you have to maintain a secure facility, and we maintain a maintenance staff. We have to do maintenance in the rest of our buildings. So you've got a fixed overhead in your maintenance staff, so you want to try to utilize them as much as possible before you bring in the extra expense of a contractor. We certainly do it in an emergency situation. We certainly do it if it's going to take some of our facility offline where we really need the space. But it's inefficient, and we do it as necessary.
Understood. Thank you.
And I just want to add to that same thought. Bear in mind that every cell in the jail is full of inmates. So to take inmates out of this one and move them so we can send workers in to repair, we don't have that luxury. They're all full. So it's hard to get what we need where we need it without a lot of logistics going on.
Right, and that's what I was wondering is you said you had to move people out and bring in more people in from like contractors in order to get it done faster, so that way these inmates don't have to be moved for that long.
Yes.
That's what I was wondering.
Just bear in mind, we're talking about spraying the showers so that they quit leaching water. But in order for us to do that, it's quite an undertaking, because we may have to send prisoners away from here to another county, pay that county to babysit them while we repair those facilities. And that can be costly, because our costs don't go away when we send 40 people to somewhere else. We're still paying the same old thing we were paying.
It's about $50 a person a day whenever you send them off. So it adds up. It adds up in a hurry. It's a challenge running a jail. It's a real challenge running a jail when it's full. It's a tough deal.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, Judge, I'm proud of this crew because I am a graduate I have a mass communications degree from Midwestern State University, as a matter of fact. Was one of the early groups through that program, and there's been a lot of talent that has come through that deal that I've been able to watch, and it's glad to see you guys in the program.
Was the radio invented back then?
Yes. Yeah, we had to crank it.
Oh, crank it, okay.
But, yeah.
We could be sure and come by and check out the groundbreaking for the new MASCOM building.
Well.
In the next 48 hours, not quite sure when, but new MASCOM building going online in a year and a half. So
Dr. June Cable was head of that department whenever I went through it, and it was a lot of fun times. In fact, I had not finished my degree, and I went back to finish up when they opened the mass communications department. It really had some good times at Midwestern. Learned a lot.
Well, I'm going to ask one quick question.
Yes, sir.
We've got an election coming up tomorrow, and this court, you guys, since we've been here, you've talked about rust, you've talked about autopsies, and you've talked about radio towers, and it seems like you have a balance in between being an administrator and being a politician, but we're in a political season. So how do the five of you balance that need and knowledge that you have to have as an administrator with the absolute need also to campaign and be a top politician?
Well, let me, because I've got a little more experience in this than
I don't know if that ever really happens.
There isn't if you're a salesman, there's not a day you're not selling. If you're a elected office holder, there's not a day you're not campaigning. Because everything you do is under the scrutiny of the public. And so
should be.
And should be.
Absolutely.
So you live it that way. Now, here's the interesting thing. In Texas, there's 254 counties. Whether you're in Harris County, 5 million people, or Loving County out by El Paso with 60-something people in it, you have a commissioner's court of 5 people that is the legislative body of that court. In many of the counties, which have that 254, you've only got less than 50 that have a population greater than 50,000, and it's probably far less than that. It's probably maybe 50 with a population of 20,000 or more. And unlike many counties, even counties our size, it's very fortunate for me that from the time I took over as judge in '99 to now, the commissioners, we have a list that's in our packet book that we have assigned. There is 2 members of this court assigned to every office to work with them as a liaison. Ms. Flores is our district clerk. None of us are her boss. She is an independent elected official and responsible for running her office the way she sees fit, and as long as the voters agree with her, she stays there and does that. Now, we control her budget, but our goal is to figure out how to provide her the resources to do her job the best for the voters. Because if we are arbitrary and do things and do not take into mind what she needs, then she's certainly got an avenue to the public to say, I could do you a better job if the Commissioner's Court would give me the resources to do it. Now, she's a smart person in office, and most all of them don't say, well, if the commissioners would tax you the way they need to give me the money I need. And that's where our job is unique compared to all other elected officials. We set the tax rate. And everybody's fine until you talk about an increase. And we have good people. We have to compensate them reasonably to keep them. We spend a lot of time and money training them. Deputy Joyner there runs a program for us that involves the community. What he brings back is tenfold to what it costs to have that office in the way of community understanding and support. So it's how do you make these investments to support the sheriff to have that. And part of it he raises and does that with private funds that match up with county money. It's always this balance, but these commissioners all have taken on these additional duties. You would not find many counties where Commissioner Harvey is the guy that helps the Sheriff's Department do the things that need to be done out at the Sprague Jail. Commissioner Mahler has the downtown jail, plus all other county buildings. He coordinates on what's being done there. Often that all falls in the county judge's office. If that were the case here, I'm pretty energetic. I can't cover that much territory. Mr. Wall is the administrative assistant to the Commissioner's Court. He helps us with handling budget and the financial things that flow through the court as well as policy. And probably doesn't look it, but he's been here longer than I have. I'm his 3rd county judge. And he has served us well and continues to do so. And he could probably take 2 of you all to add up to his age. So, but don't get out and try to outwalk him. He'll put you in the shade. But this is probably the most interesting job of all governments because at our level we are working elected officials, and that's why you hear hands-on discussion from this group as to what's going on.
I still go run a motor grader from time to time. You know, some days you really enjoy that. Yeah. You know, another interesting part of the political connection, Judge, is that this is where the party affiliation begins in public office. You don't declare party or run into primaries for school board, city council, but you do at the county level. And this is where that begins. Of course, I've often thought that really and truly it doesn't apply much until you get to the state level. We don't caucus by party. We don't have committee assignments by party, even though we've had both parties represented on this court. This is where it starts. So this is where that political deal begins, and that's been a long discussion. There's been talk about removing that from the party system, but we haven't done it. But it is a political job, and you got to keep that back in mind. It's walking a tightrope. You're always conscious of the budget. You're always conscious of the tax rate because that's what the people see first. But at the same time, you've got to do your job, and there's a lot of things that are mandated by the state legislature and state constitution say we have to do no matter what it costs. So it's a balancing act without a doubt.
Well, and everybody hears the word taxes, and you know, if we say we're going to go up a penny, and you have a $100,000 home, do you have a feel for what that means to you? $10
a year.
A year. So when you get it down to that, but it's the homeowners that come in here and complain about a tax increase. It's not the major industries that are worth $50 million. That penny is some real money there. But we very seldom get complaints from them. They realize that's somewhat the cost of doing business. We try to stay very cognizant of it. We try to balance that. We try to look for other ways to do things. Commissioner Harvey brought an idea this year that we thought would go through real easy. It's called a county infrastructure tax. It was to collect uncollected sales tax outside of the city limits, the 2 cents. Well, what he found out in his research was that most places, their software was programmed to catch the 8 1/4 cents anyhow. And only the rural residents could vote on it. It lost by a few hundred votes. We could not legally go push it or anything. We have to stay neutral. And so we're going to make another attempt at that simply because that would then provide us money to help. I'm going to say 2 areas I feel like is rural fire department funding and a new communication system for the sheriff's office, which it would partially fund both of those. But it's getting people to understand that. But they hear the word tax and lock up. And so it's part of our job is to explain what it costs and why it's going there. And a lot of people, I get tickled when they run for these offices. They say, I'm going to bring in a balanced budget. We have a balanced budget every year. We have to. But a large portion of that contingency fund helps us have the money there to take care of emergencies or take care of overruns in prisoner costs or court costs that we don't have any way. We can't control that number. We have to do what comes through the door. So, all right, anything else? Really appreciate having you all here. Claire, you never did give me, you have any ideas for them or?
I never get to talk. I just listen. It's great to see the same faces every week. I come here and am able to have this be part of my regular beat. I do county, city, and the military at Shepherd. So I see them and I know them, and they're always, it depends on which group you're talking with, but this is a very open, and they have answered every question I've ever asked, and they don't make you go do FOIs or go through all of that rigmarole usually, unless it's legally required. But it's fun. I'm obviously probably going to do a story on what we did this morning, which is a little more interesting. There's 50 people in here from Iowa Park that were mostly, except for this lady right here. I think she was with that guy. but everybody else was against this coming in, and just that was interesting. But it's a balance between what I think is interesting and what I think people need to know, and what I think they might think is interesting. With the internet age and people just whizzing by headlines so quickly, you got to catch what would be interesting. The $7 per sheet kind of, oh, that's interesting. So I kind of put that on my back burner, and I got about 4 things here that I'm like, well, that was kind of interesting, and I write it down, and some things to tuck away for later and bring it up, or if I don't have time to do it, I'll pass it off on somebody else and say, you got time to look into this. And so there's what I'll do today for the next day, and then there's what I kind of keep in the rotation, what's interesting.
I don't know what the thread count is on those sheets, but
yeah, $7 sheet.
The other thing that we do, and a lot of people won't do this, you can look in the phone book and find, I know in my case, in one of the phone books, I don't know, my wife aced me out of the other one, she's got the listing, but I have my home number and address in there. Everything I send out on my stationery has all 3 of those numbers. And I'll hear people say, well, do people call you at home all the time? No, people are very nice. They call when they need something. And, I've had very few cases where I thought somebody abused that. And the only real abuse, if you call my wife and give her an earful, that's not good because I get it then. Yeah. But, I have told
you can't hang up on your wife, can you?
No, not and survive that, but at any rate. But the other thing is, these devices have made us all a lot more available to the public no matter where we are. And I think that's what you sign on for. It's a 24/7 job. And
Judge, it's interesting too is that I think local government, whether it be city council, mayor, county judge, or commissioner's court, is government that a lot of the people know and see. Somebody asked me one time, said, what's it like being an elected official? I said, it's wonderful. I get to see my constituents at the grocery store and at the ball game on Friday night, at church on Sunday morning. They said, what's the worst part? I said, I get to see my constituents at the ball game, the grocery store, and at church on Sunday morning, and they'll let you know whenever they're not happy with the way things are going. But it's a connection that you don't have with any of your other elected officials. Matt Thornberry comes to town every once in a while. He's a great guy. I think he's doing a great job, and he's always open to visit with you, but he's not here all the time. You don't see him around because he's there. The governor, the state representatives, state senators and all, they're more remote from the local people. So I think it's a unique situation to be that close to your constituency on a day-to-day basis. And once again, good and bad, but it's there. And we like that contact. We loved it this morning when 50 people showed up to tell us what they think. That's what we'd like to see. Golly, you'd like to have a candidates debate where you fill the house and people are coming and asking the right questions. But it's a good connection, and it's where politics meet the general public on the local level. So I think it's important.
all right. The last time we all, I'm sorry.
Right. One of the unique things about Precinct 1 is that I was on the city council for 2 terms, and a lot of the people that are District 4, which was the councilman for that particular area, they still think I'm on the city council, and they still want to complain to me about why the dog is barking or why is somebody throwing trash out in the alley and they're getting cited for it. So
my water rates are too high.
Yes, but it's good.
Well, the interesting thing about Precinct 1 is the Precinct 1 commissioner. You get to visit with Ray Gonzalez. That's the interesting part.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
All right. The last, we always close up with public comment. We've kind of already done that, but we do that in case. And if people come to our meetings and they want to speak to an item, that's why I announce on every item is someone have a comment. And that really means anybody in here. These meetings are video streamed out, so people can watch them from different places. Then they're placed and available through YouTube and through our county website. And they're also then re-shown on the Wichita Falls cable television system through the city's channel. So we try to make it as available as possible for people to know. Joyce Gillian, the Secretary of the County Judge, after these meetings, she writes up what we call the Cliff's Notes version of this meeting and gets those out so people can have an idea of what went on and go, oh, wait a minute. And they call in and say, I didn't know that was on there, but, you know, we try to make that information available to everybody. And it goes to all county email users, so they'll have a chance to look at that and see. Okay, anything else? Yes, sir.
Citizens Academy number 13 starts Thursday night.
Excellent thing to go to and learn about the Sheriff's Department, but county government in general, and also that works out well. Voting was mentioned. Tomorrow is the day to vote. If for some reason, oh gosh, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but let's say you're not a resident of this county, but you want to vote for president. I believe I'm right in this. You can go in and get a provisional ballot and do that. The bad news is they take your ballot, you do all that. I don't think it gets counted anywhere because of the way the system works. But in case you were given an assignment, you had to show you voted. I'm just trying to figure out how to get you through that. But right now, we still use the traditional voting day sites. Your voter registration card has on there what commissioner's precinct you're in and what your voting location is, and that's where you go tomorrow. Early voting, you could go to any one of those sites, no matter where you lived, and vote there. We are entertaining the idea of going to what's called vote centers in the future, and that would be election day would be the same thing as early voting. You could vote anywhere at any one of the sites. And so that's up in the grabs. But watch the returns tomorrow night. I have a feeling it's going to be interesting to see what gets molded into the future by tomorrow's voting. It'll be a long day for some. So, all right, I have 3:16.
I'd like to elaborate on something.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It's going to be at least 3:20 before we finish now.
I want to elaborate on something, and that is the Citizens Academy. He said, oh, it starts Thursday night. Y'all come, it'll be fun. Does anybody in here have a clue what you get to do if you go to the Citizens Academy?
Get to shoot a gun.
You get to go through the shoot, don't shoot deal with the baby and the bad guy. You get to drive a squad car through an obstacle course. You get to go on patrol and ride with the officers on different nights. And one of the guys in my Sunday school class went through it. His name is Jeff Briscoe. He said that was the most fun he had in a long time. So it's something to really consider because I think that's pretty cool to get to go do all that stuff.
Once a week for 14 weeks and on a Thursday night.
Thursday night from 6 to 9 unless it's church.
And I know it's a lot of money to pay, but it's free. Price is right. You guys ought to think about that.
Food's good, too.
Yeah, you get fed pretty good, and you get a shirt and a ball cap and all that good stuff. Oh, and you get to tase Melvin.
No.
Oh, that's not in there? Oh.
You get to see it, thank you. But, once you graduate, you can join the Citizens Academy Alumni Group. These are a group of men and women that have all gone through the academy. They're a 501c nonprofit, and their job right now, they're currently have decided to build a memorial in front of the courthouse for fallen deputies and fallen volunteer firemen, because currently there's nothing to honor those men and women who give the ultimate sacrifice. And it's not just an ordinary monument. It'll be a 6-foot bronze deputy, a 6-foot bronze fireman, and it's going to be very beautiful. I know you saw the...
I saw the architectural drawings of that. I mean, that is beautiful. So I would love that to be on the lawn of our courthouse.
In addition to that, once they get that project, well, they'll be going along raising money to buy equipment and other things to try to save county tax dollars by buying some equipment that maybe we can't get budgeted, or maybe it's very expensive, that sort of thing. So,
all right.
Anybody interested, call the sheriff's office. We'll get you. And that
Be worth the time. All right. 3:19, we're adjourned.
Sorry, Judge.
That's all right, no.
You mean I didn't take
No,
up the...
no, you didn't. I was
420?
impressed. Yeah.
Are you going to Major Lawson's?
Yeah, I had it on, you invited me, I went.
It's on 30.
Hey, Claire,
Yeah, 4:30.
if you get